Hey y'all, Cecile here. I know I have not seen y'all for a while. It's been a while since I have been live. It's been a while since I've been on social media. Had a lot of stuff going on, working, volunteering, working with a bunch of organizations. But I wanted to hop on today to share with y'all that the Women Connected in Wisdom. Y'all remember that I wrote a chapter for Women Connected in Wisdom, stories and resources rooted in the 8 dimensions of wellness last year. And we had a big launch right around this time. And you guys helped us become a #1 bestseller on Amazon. And so I wanted to announce that this week we are having our second launch. It's volume 2 of Women Connected in Wisdom. And so I wanted to hop on and let y'all know about that. Again, we are talking about stories and resources rooted in the 8 dimensions of wellness. On this book, not only was I an author writing a chapter, I also was an editor of the book and supported the project manager to get this book launched. And so I'm so super excited for this to be launched. And let me see if I can find the link, because right now, at the launch, the book is, hold on, putting this in the comments. All right, I'm putting the link in the comments. So right now, the book is available for $1.99 on Kindle, y'all. This is going to be the lowest price that it's going to be. And so if you want to get the Kindle version, if you want to help us get to a #1 bestseller, today is the day to go ahead and sign up. So you can click that link, and it looks like it's only showing in StreamYard and on YouTube. So if you're watching somewhere else, you can find the link on YouTube. I don't know why it's not showing up anywhere else. Oh, thank you, Christine. I see Christine put it in the comments, so hopefully it's showing up on LinkedIn. Um, Hopefully I'll be having some of my co-authors join me in just a few minutes. But what I wanted to say was that this was a totally new process for us, because last time we had Women Connected in Wisdom hired a publisher, and that's who we worked with. This time, Women Connected in Wisdom actually established their own press. And as an editor, I got to work with them through this process because we did the publishing process ourselves. And so that was a huge learning curve. And that's another reason why I'm extra excited to actually have this book launch this week. And for those of you who maybe not into Kindle, you really like to have like a paperback version in your hand, that's going to be available tomorrow. So, Shannon, how do you join? I sent y'all an invitation last night with the StreamYard link. It was, I don't know what time last night, but it was kind of late last night. I sent you a link. Um, and thank y'all for watching. Hey, Susan, how are you? Thank you so much. I know you bought a copy of the book already. Thank you so much. I cannot wait to hear what you think about it and to receive your review. I'm so glad that you're here. Like I said, it's been a long time since I've been live, y'all. I'm feeling a little bit nervous because I used to go live all the time. And now it's been a while because, life happens. And so I haven't been online. But I was just online with Women Connected in Wisdom and one of the other authors. And we were online live yesterday with some of the other authors. And what I like about this book is that it's not all like just regular chapters listing resources. Some of our chapters are poems. Some of our chapters are written in prose. There's this one author who is brand new with us this volume, who her name is Rayleigh Durden. And I said her writing sounds like flowers because I don't know how else to describe it, but it's beautiful. And hold on. Oops. All right. Yay. Thank you so much, Susan. I am so glad that you're here too. Thank you so much for being willing to give us a review. I know we've already got probably about 20 reviews. listed over on Amazon. And so far, everything is coming in great. People are talking about how they feel connected to us. They're talking about how they identify with the chapters in the book. My chapter, I'm just going to brag, my chapter is the lead chapter. I don't know if that makes a difference, but it's called Let Your Body Be Your Guide. And it's about getting into your body. Y'all know that when I talk about my 4 pillars for the everyday activism habit, it's self care, which is about getting in your body. Then at number 2 is know your facts, which is about learning our history, learning about the systems of oppression. Number 3 is undo the work, taking what you've learned and then going out and using that to make a difference in the world wherever you take up space. And then 4 is rest and rejoice. And so in this chapter, Let Your Body Be Your Guide, I am really focusing on what it means to get into your body and to create the capacity to be able to handle hard conversations or be able to handle whatever life is throwing at you. And jumping right into the hard stuff. Thank you. Thank you, Christine. Jumping right into the hard stuff. I used to operate that way. And what I found is that people take in the information. Hey, Cynthia. Hey, Cynthia. Yeah, I can't wait for you to read it too. But what I found is that jumping right into the hard stuff makes it harder to actually deal with the hard stuff. If you take the time to get into your body, whether that's taking one belly breath, and I'm going to invite y'all to take one with me now. If you sit up straight with your head over your shoulders, shoulders over your hips, feet flat on the floor, give your belly room to expand. And then take a deep breath in through your belly. And then exhale at your own pace. All right. I see that the link was not available. Let me send this invite right quick. Excuse me, y'all. So sorry. All right. So I have sent the link to both you and Christine and Shannon. If y'all could forward it to the other authors. I'm so sorry that the link wasn't in the email last night. So, like I was saying, I used to jump right into teaching anti-oppression work. And what I found is that people were telling me, so glad to have the information, and I do not have the capacity to, do anything with this. I really just don't. I'm afraid I'm going to hurt somebody. I'm, feeling like I'm going to do something wrong. I'm feeling, have this emotional trauma that I haven't dealt with. And so, and so I started leaning into the self-care piece first. And so now, whether it's taking one deep belly breath or spending 20 minutes doing an exercise to get people in their body and feeling safe, it's worth it, because then when we start focusing on the hard stuff, people have capacity and they have capacity to deal with things that otherwise they wouldn't. Once you get in your body, you can hear hard facts, things that normally might knock you off balance. And then all of a sudden, you can come back to center, or you can stay centered. Um, and when we are doing this as a group and staying centered, we can keep each other in our bodies. We can remind each other when we see somebody starting to get very emotional, we can say, hey, do you want to pause and take a breath? And give people the inner authority to do what they need to do. If they feel themselves getting emotional, if they need to step back for a minute and then come back to um, what it is that we're talking about. I'm making sure that I did send the link. I did. All right. Okay, great. Christine is here. Hey, Christine. Thank you so much for showing up.
I was thinking it was me. I'm like looking through my email and it responded to one of our other lives. So I kept clicking on that link and it was the link to the live we just finished. And so, give me a minute, but I am so grateful to be here with you, my friend.
I'm glad you're here too. I responded so that the email could go to everyone because I didn't have everyone's email.
I love it.
Okay, well, I am so sorry about the link getting mixed up.
You
Thank
know
you
what?
so much, Shannon, for putting the
Okay.
link in the author assets. I don't know if everybody knows that I'm going live now since I sent the email incorrectly. I hope someone else decides to show up.
We got time. You know, if it's
Yeah,
just a couple of us, we can always do it again. Your
yeah.
chapter was fabulous, my friend. Like,
Oh,
as
thank you so
always,
much.
like you're just such a great writer. And what I love
Aw, thank
about
you.
you, I'm serious. And what I love about you is not only are you a great writer, so it makes you want to read it, you give people very practical, incremental steps and tips and tools that they can use to access their body wisdom and to do hard conversations in the work, right? Or as you call it,
Aw,
the work.
I'm
And
doing the work. Yes.
I've always loved that about your system and the way you teach, and it's just inspired. It's wonderful.
Aw, thank you so much. Thank you. Oops,
Yeah.
there's Shannon. Hey, Shannon. Sorry about the mix up with the link invitation.
Oh, wait. I was listening to Christine's voice on LinkedIn and in the studio. So I was like waiting for Christine to finish talking. Then she's drinking coffee. I'm like, what's going on? Multiple places at once, thanks to technology.
Uh, yeah. Well, I was talking about before I started talking about the process in my chapter, I was talking about how the last time we did this, when we became number one Amazon best-selling authors, that Women Connected in Wisdom had hired a publisher that
Yeah.
took us through this process. And then this time, you guys launched your own publishing company, and you were the ones who led us through this process. And here we are, just about a year later, and we have a second volume. And this somehow feels even more exciting. It feels like such a bigger deal than it was last year. It was a big deal last year, but knowing that you guys created the business and we worked together to get this out, without having to hire an outside resource makes this feel like a bigger deal to me.
Yes. I hear you. And I think that it's a big deal for a list of reasons, right? One, because you can feel that way on your own, on in it in of itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
But two, a lot of people write one book. Actually, let's start with a lot of people want to write a book, right? And
Mm-hmm.
fewer write a book. And then
Mm-hmm.
fewer write another book. And so not that it's about comparison of from how much work we've done to what other people do, but just being able to take the opportunity to do it, having a second book, having another role in the book outside of just being an author, like you said, being on the editor team, and
Mm-hmm.
from the very beginning to how we label the items in the drive to the last weekend when Co was giving you a shout out yesterday about how you supported the team through the edits and everything. I had put the wrong chapter, copy and pasted the wrong thing, and it was an easy fix. And I don't know if I would have caught it as easy as you did. So that's
Okay.
what I love about being connected. So when we talk about your chapter, yesterday I was talking about the definition of capacity, right? How you said that, and
Mm-hmm.
it's important to talk about. The other
Mm-hmm.
definition that you have in there is connection and
Mm-hmm.
connectedness to people. Okay, sometimes we supported you through emergencies. We supported me through emergencies, supported Christine through emergencies. But then when you
Mm-hmm.
could, you came back and supported the way you were supposed to, and that's how we built the team. And it was a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful thing to be able to do it ourselves.
Yeah, it really was. And
Yeah.
and now that you said that, all three of us really did have emergencies throughout this process, and I had not thought about that. Thank you for naming that.
Everybody on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we still
Yeah.
did it, and that's what women do, and that's what we're talking about, right? Like, we deal with this
Mm-hmm.
stuff and we still show up. And
Yeah.
yes, you've been a super trooper, and I love the reviews and the fact that they see that they've had a difficult year, right? They felt
Mm-hmm.
isolated, they've been sick, they've been dealing with a lot of the stuff that we've been dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I told Christine, like, even though we know all these women are on the way, and we talk about SMART goals, right? We came in thinking there might be 30 authors and there's 12. What we know
Mm-hmm.
is that the people who are on this StreamYard are supposed to be here, right? The people who are
Mm-hmm.
in the book are the people who are supposed to be in the book.
Supposed to be
And
there.
so,
Mm-hmm.
like, this year, do I have space to read 30 people? No, like, I don't know. That's a lot. You know what I mean? Like, if I was reading a
Right.
book right now. So I think everybody's there. And I love that everybody's been enjoying the stories, feeling like they're getting
Mm-hmm.
things that make them feel hopeful, make them feel seen, and make them feel like they can keep going. Let's
Mhm.
just plan 2024. If all of the
Right.
rest of it's overwhelming, let's just talk about right now and where we're going.
Right. Well, I will say, as an editor, reading all of the chapters and,
Yeah.
editing and then doing the proofreading, I was noticing that the first time I read through the chapters, I was like, oh, I was learning something and I was getting a new perspective on, all the different eight dimensions from what I was reading from everyone. But then as I edited and worked with the authors to, um, I guess, streamline or make the message clearer and then to proofread. By the time I read the final chapter, I was getting something else out of it. So it was the same information, the same chapter, but the first draft to the final draft, what I learned from each chapter shifted. And so
Mhm.
I thought that that was interesting. I'm used
I
to
hear
I'm
what
used
you
to editing fiction. So editing this was different for me. Doing it, first of all, doing it in a team with a group, and then also doing, short chapters that were nonfiction. And so noticing that I learned different things from the same chapter depending on the draft was interesting.
Mhm. I love that. Were you gonna say something to it, Christine? I wanna give
Yeah,
you some
Christine
Well, I
looked
was
like
feedback.
she was.
just thinking about the short essays and the bite size of wisdom, right?
Hmm.
We've had several people that have reviewed the book, first volume one and now volume two, that really like that format. Because we all know, like most of us as women are caretakers, whether that's of family or the community or we're businesses or all three, right? That we often don't have a lot of time. Sometimes we have time when we have time that we create in our calendars, right? But sometimes it's going to the bathroom and that's our moment, right? And these essays, like you can do that, like when you're in the bathroom when you got the door shut and you're taking a moment for yourself, right? It is, and it's they're authentic and they go deep pretty quick. They are all our authors like showed up in their full selves, in their full authentic selves, and they share their personal stories, which are really connecting, and then they share resources, which I just think I love that. Y'all know me as a social worker. Like I love hooking people up to resources because I believe our stories, our personal stories are the way that we learn, like listening to each other and connecting with each other. And hook me up with a darn good resource so I can do it too. Right.
Right.
When I resonate with what you're saying.
Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
think about learning, right? How you were talking yesterday, Christine, about the intellectual space when you're watching TV, right? Like, yes, learn things. Yes, we do new things, and like we're talking about, did a new process, did it ourselves this time, right? But also watching TV and watching the makeup shows, watching the architecture, the dancing shows, so that you have that creative rest and can come back to it full and reset. S-
Yeah, we've been so
Sir.
lucky
That's okay.
and these authors. So, for folks that don't know us,
Yeah.
Shannon and I are the co-host of the Women Connected in Wisdom podcast.
Hmm.
We just recorded episode. What are we on today? Today is
135.
5 with episode 135. So we
Yes.
have been really lucky and honored to interview over 100 women and people who identify as women to find out how they're doing this. How are they looking at the eight dimensions of wellness? How are they maintaining their wellness in the midst of juggling everything we're juggling, right?
Mhm.
And that the different types of rest came to us from one of our podcast guests, and really we just keep deepening into some of this. That's the other thing I love about it. Through the stories, through the episodes, it's like, oh yeah, that tool, because not every tool works at every time or every season in your life. So having a lot of tools in your toolbox, like you can circle back around and go, okay, this one works, it's perfect, or this one's not working anymore. What can I do differently? And we have such a diverse group of experts, like
Hmm.
age, ethnicity, religious background, like just so much wisdom.
Hmm. Yeah, I was talking yesterday on one of the lives yesterday. Somebody was talking about the tools, and I was like, what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for someone else, and what works for you today might not work for you tomorrow. So experimenting with all the different tools, and when I say tools, I mean things like, meditation and journaling and physical exercise and, visualization and all these different things that people use, and understanding that each one of those, there are a million different ways to do it. I mean, when you say meditation, some people automatically think that you're, sitting with your legs crossed and holding your fingers a certain way. Other people think, of laying out on the grass and, expanding their consciousness. There are so many different ways to do it. And it's important not only to choose the right method, but also to choose the right version of that method for you. I was sharing with Shannon yesterday how, I was teaching journaling, and someone was telling me how they were feeling really sad and gratitude journaling was not working for them. And they were like, I don't think journaling works for me. And I was like, no, I was like, gratitude journaling isn't working for you right now, but there are so many other ways to journal. And I suggested that they try a brain dump where they just write down everything that they were thinking and feeling to get it out of their mind and out of their body so that their mind and body could rest because they know they can come back later to pick it up. And I just want to point out that that kind of stuff is emotional and mental wellness. We keep talking about the 8 dimensions of wellness, and I want people to know what the 8 dimensions are. But this part right
Yeah.
here is about emotional and mental wellness. And I know, Christine, one of your chapters was about environmental wellness. And I really love the way not only did you talk about the environment, but you also gave us a history lesson. Did
Mhm.
you want to talk about that some?
Well, I just, if I can even remember y'all today being on cold medicine, but
I'm
I grew up in Texas, and I grew up there's so much good and not good to say about that, right? But one of the things that stuck out to me, even from the time that I was a child, is the wildflowers in Texas along our highways. And that was very intentionally created by one of our first ladies, Lady Bird Johnson, and she put a beautification act into place. So we all know as artists and activists, like, you can talk all you want, but if there's not a policy backing it up, that it usually doesn't happen. So I grew up knowing this story, and it just really made an impact on me that how we as individuals can make a difference in our environment and our wellness.
Got you. And what I was thinking about earlier with the bite sizes of information, right, is because of, for me, I think about attention span, right, and capacity, like we're talking about. Moms might have, if you only have the space in the bathroom to go be by yourself, I want you to have that time. Maybe don't read the book, right? And that's why I'm excited about the audiobooks that we have coming. So you can listen and do the dishes, you can listen and be in the car. And again, I know some of my personal friends have not had the time to read the books. They've been raising young children, and so they've been, taking care of the family, caregiving, trying to be intentional about self-care, and they
Mhm.
need the audiobook and the
Sure.
different way of inputting information in the season that they're in right now.
I can totally identify with that. I am someone who used to read 3 books a week,
Wow.
and that was just my habit for since high school. And then right before the pandemic, um, I lost the ability to retain and comprehend what I was reading, and so I stopped reading, and now I rely on audiobooks to get my
Yes.
information. I can read like a little bit at a time, but that 3 books a week that I was doing before, I cannot my brain will not process it. I don't remember what I'm reading. But if I have an audiobook, I'm still taking that information. So I am so glad that we have that option for other
Yes.
people too. Yeah.
Yes. It's important.
Mhm.
And
It is.
what was I gonna say? That's why you said that is emotional and mental wellness. I agree with that,
Mhm.
right? And we also talk about
Mhm.
the intersectionality, and that's why I see it as intellectual wellness as well.
Mhm.
Because the way I used to think about it, right, thank you, is if I know how to do something, that's the way I always do it, right? If I read a book, I read 3 a week. That's what I do. I don't think about changing it, or I realized that before I didn't. But now, being a serial entrepreneur and being a leader in business, you have to be able to pivot quickly, right? And so I got to practice that as a kitchen manager, dealing with all these different things. But there's even more moving logistics over here when you're the person at the top of the communication I don't know what to call it. I don't even know. The communication cycle, I guess, when you decide what is communicated to the rest of the team, right? That's a different position to when you're like, okay, I get the weekly email. We went to the meeting. Now I know what to go talk to my department about. So in my habits, in the workflow, seeing that, oh, in this season, I need to change this in order to do this, in order to still reach my goal at the time that I plan on doing it. And for me, it's actually been adding reading back in because I had taken it out. And are you raising your hand?
Oh, sorry.
Got you.
No,
No,
that's
you're okay.
that's me with my arm going, no, I'm
Got you.
sorry.
No problem. I be checking in. Okay. Um, but I actually had to add it in, and in college, I took it off the list, right? I said, "Okay, I have 5 classes, 3 jobs. I'm not reading anything that I don't have to read with all this paperwork and all these readings for these classes," right? But what I realized writing volume 1 and then starting the process of volume 2, if I take off reading for the seasons that I'm busy, I'm gonna be busy for a while. Like I need to, even though I'm listening to audiobooks to get my goal number in per year to make sure I'm consistently learning new skills and getting new perspectives. I also want to read because I love reading. I've always been a nerd. That's who little Shannon was, right? Doing different stuff. And reading is not going anywhere. So even though, like you're saying on the inside, now being part of a hybrid publishing company and running it, participating in it, getting to see how you look at information differently throughout the drafts and the process of everything, I still like being on the other side and being able to even what I've been doing recently is coupling the way I take in information, right? So I'm reading Uncle Tom's Cabin because it's been on my list because I've had the book forever and I haven't finished it. And because I'm celebrating being able to read and write and do business and do what I want with all the seconds in all of my days, right? But I'm coupling that with I Love Me More by Jenna Banks. And she sent it to us. She sent it to us because she was a guest on our podcast. And I feel like I could have done better with the marketing when she sent it. So I'm like nitpicking at myself about that, like we do about stuff. But instead, just enjoy it. And what's the best way that that would bring me joy is reading those two together so I can get through the material for my intellectual wellness and still enjoy reading and have the balance between that and all the work that we're doing here.
Mhm. You were talking about intersectionality, about the 8 dimensions. What you were describing was intellectual wellness, but you were also talking about that as part of your work and part of being a student. So that
Yes.
also could fall under occupational wellness as well.
And it's important to always remember that you're a student, and
Mhm,
that's what I recently had a conversation with one of the leaders at Papado and telling him how that's part of my chapter in this book, right? And
mhm,
one of the kitchen managers at the beginning of my managerial career in that company taught me that you're always a student and you're always a teacher, right? I'm used to
mhm,
being the person that's, hey, this is what you do. Yes, your story fits, helping the authors, being the go to, designing the graphics, doing all this stuff, and being the
mhm,
person that comes to you with the solution that you're looking for, right? But when you're learning something, now you should listen more than you speak, and you have to forget what you know so you can take in new information and maybe think about a way that um, it might be more effective to do something that you've done in a way that you haven't usually done it because of this
mhm,
perspective that you're being taught from. So
mhm,
that's what's been beautiful in this situation, working with you ladies and working through the process of our cohort of authors of 12 new ladies, or not new, not all of us, right? But
not all of
12
us.
authors, which, and it's a beautiful thing, right? Is
Mhm,
jumping back and forth, helping and remembering my authors can teach me something in this moment. My team can teach me something. The reviews can teach me something, and I can turn
mhm,
around and still be confident to offer my expertise and say, "Hey, this is what I'm working on. This is what I have to offer, and this is what I've learned."
mhm. And then I wanna
Yeah.
point out that we're doing this in community. And
Yeah.
because we're doing this in community and doing it together, this also falls under social wellness because this is
Mhm.
about what we're building as a community, as a group, how we're intentionally working together. And even when we step back to do our things individually, like we were talking about how your self-care actually
Mhm.
is community care, because when you
Yes.
take care of yourself and increase your capacity, then that means that you're not taking resources that other people would be pouring into you, and you actually have room to pour out to other people. So even when you're taking care of yourself, that's still part of social wellness, because how well you are affects how well you can show up for the community.
Yes. It's so
Mhm,
important.
mhm. All right, so
Mhm.
we've covered most of the 8. We've got a couple that are left. Financial wellness, I know in book one, Christine, you ended up writing a chapter on financial wellness. In this book, Coach Co wrote a chapter on financial wellness.
Yeah.
And I remember in volume one, you were really hoping somebody else wanted to take that
Right.
take that
Well, and
topic, and you were like, oh,
I just talked about going back to the basics, right?
mm-hmm,
And really, really, how do we do that? Especially if we weren't taught how to do it. So in
mm-hmm,
volume one, there's definitely resources for folks, free
mm-hmm,
resources, way to get connected, way to help. Um, I do talk about budgets in that one because I have done
mm-hmm,
a lot of that work with my coaching clients. But
mm-hmm,
since that chapter's been written, it is always interesting how we're evolving and learning things, right? We had a guest on the podcast, and Shannon, I may need your help on this because my brain's a little fuzzy today, but she talked about not calling it budget. She called it something way sexier. It was about
Mm.
I
like
remember that
prosperity,
podcast,
I do remember.
and
but
I
what was
needed
the word?
to do. What was the word? It was
A nourishing plan?
nourishing plan, or something
Nourishing
like that.
something. Mhm.
It was really about thinking about our words and our language, because often,
Mm-hmm,
like when we think budget, it feels constrictive. But
mm-hmm,
if nourishing plan, what would nourish our souls? Like what would nourish
mm-hmm,
us? And the things that fall under budget fall under a nursing plan. Our
mm-hmm,
food, our gas, our heat, our water. But it hits different, right? When it's
right?
nourishing versus constricting and we're
Mm-hmm,
limiting. So I just find that very fascinating. And Coach Co's, of course, her voice is so delightful, and her wisdom around financial wellness and
mm-hmm.
her authenticity and vulnerability around this topic is just a powerful read in volume two.
Yeah.
And she
I wanna
combined her financial wellness with spiritual wellness,
Mhm.
because she talked about how she spent her last $10 to attend a church quote unquote budget class, but they called it Financial Hope. Was it
Mhm.
Financial Hope?
Yes.
And so she spent her last $10 to take a class to learn about finances at her church. And
Yes.
she was saying yesterday that um, the program that they offered was not something they made up. It was actually based on like
Dave
proven
Ramsey.
Dave Ramsey's course. And so
I got you.
and he sells that for like thousands of dollars. And so for $10, she was able to show up at her church and receive not only the spiritual healing, but also this financial healing that she needed to be able to, master her finances.
Yes, and I would love
Hmm.
to speak to both of those because I go to Victory, and
Okay.
Victory is actually where I met Joe, which is why I met Christine, which is why we're here today, right? And, so I love the synchronicity and the way that things fall together, right? And that's what I
Hmm.
think about things being strategically orchestrated when we talk
Hmm.
specifically about finances and spiritual wellness, because one thing that stops people from doing things, right? We're talking about goals and how to be well and maintain all these things. But sometimes there's a gap between what we want and what we're doing, right? And
Hmm.
sometimes it can be because of what we feel like we don't have. And in my life,
Hmm.
money is one of those things, growing up with holes in my shoes. I didn't have food at home.
Hmm.
We needed help. And so to be able to say, "Oh, I'm going to start a business, oh, I'm going to do these things," some people, this is where the imposter syndrome comes in, and feel like they're not supposed to be in that room, right? But
Hmm.
if I know that I have an anchor in spiritual wellness and that's where my worth comes from, it's not whether I have a salary job or if I'm door dashing or cleaning um, commercial buildings or at retail or e-commerce, none of that is changing my worth as a person, right? So knowing that and being able to anchor that when we talk about epigenetics and capacity and what our community looks like as we're shifting through transitions and trying to build community that's reflective of who we feel like we are and where we're going, excuse me, that's why it's important to have the anchor in the spiritual wellness, right? And sometimes a place you can go where all I have is $10. And the goal, like she said at the end of the chapter, is to not choose between the sandwich and the $10. I want both, right? I don't want to have to choose between saying that, oh, this is what I need, but I'm going to give my last to give it. But sometimes that's where we are. And the beautiful thing is that places like Women Connected in Wisdom, where we have all these, again, 134 today, 135 free episodes that's connecting you to resources like Victory, like Cecile, like Christine and Interplay, and all these hundreds and eventually thousands of different resources. It's important to be able to then put your pride aside. And she said, I came from not Atlanta, I came from Louisiana, right? From Louisiana to Atlanta, thinking I was going to be this entrepreneur, thinking it was going to be all this and that. And sometimes it can be difficult to put our pride down and say, I'm going to go, even though it's usually thousands of dollars, and spend 10 and say I need help and go to a place that's willing to help you so that you can get better and then get on the path that you're supposed to be on. And now she's helping other people do the same thing in different areas of her life. It's a beautiful thing.
Okay, well, I want to wrap up. I want to ask you guys if you have something, final thoughts, but I want to remind everybody that we're on here today because we are promoting Women Connected in Wisdom Volume 2, which launched
Yes.
yesterday. If you are
Yes.
interested in the book, if you're interested in the 8 dimensions of wellness, if you know any of the authors, I am encouraging you to go on Amazon. You can't get it on the app. You've got to go to amazon.com/ebooks and put in
Mhm.
Women Connected in Wisdom. Volume 2 is there. It's available for $1.99 on Kindle today. The paperback will be available tomorrow. Any purchase that you make today is going to help us move towards being another #1 Amazon bestseller, which we
Yes.
were last year, and I'm claiming that it's happening this year.
Right.
And so I want to give you guys the opportunity to say anything you want to say to the audience as we close out.
Anything you want to say? I'll let you go first, Christine, since I just had a little stint.
I just want to say thank you, Cecile. Thank you for being connected to Women Connected Wisdom, for your wisdom, for your voice, for your expertise, and for all the folks that listen or read and or show up for classes, or it is just really. I derive a lot of comfort from the fact that I don't have to do this world by myself, that we are connected and we have each other through good times and bad times. And this year for so many people has been such a challenge, and I can't imagine doing it without y'all. So I just want to say thank you for being part of our team, for being part of our community, for being part of our world. And we're on LinkedIn, and this is where you and I met.
Mm.
And that's the other thing is, I know socials get a lot of bad rap sometimes, but brought one of my best friends into my world through LinkedIn and another connection. So just gratitude, such gratitude.
Yes.
Thank
Yes.
you so much, Shannon.
Yes. I love it. I
Thanks,
definitely second
Christine.
that.
Thank you.
And again, it's about us being healed. That's my goal with Women Connected in Wisdom, right? People knowing that they're worth it, knowing that you can be healed, knowing that even if you don't have what you think you need right now, somebody else has the resources, somebody's an expert in that field, and you can get connected and get the help that you need. And it's not as distant as it used to be. So I'm super excited to be here for all the ladies and our partners and everybody who's been part of it to get us to this point, 2 volumes and a community that's building and 135 episodes today, and for everybody that's on the way. And it's not for everybody, but there's a lot of people that it is for. So we're excited to talk to you, excited to see what you think about our stories. And the audiobook is on the way. I'm looking forward to more.
All right. Thank you, guys.
You're
And
welcome.
for everybody who's watching, whether you're watching live or seeing this on the replay,
Right.
thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.